talking about you got this and you got that, and you gonna murder this one and murder that one. Talking all that bullshit. I'm gonna put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me. I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
Special episode.
Cut it to me. What are you doing leaving it on black?
Keep going. Let him keep going. But you know, it's me
Is my camera
and my
on?
only friends, which includes, but is not limited to, the Pink Pony Club. And when he's dancing in the Pink Pony Club.
He's only doing this because his camera's off.
Why do you think it's a good idea to leave the screen black when we're on YouTube? Like, this is the worst production decision I've ever seen you make in my entire life.
I'm so sorry.
You have two other cameras to cut to. Why would you just leave it on black?
You weren't ready, and I didn't know if I should throw it to LeMan and Landon.
I was staring at you saying, cut to me.
I can't wait till you run that back and we hear him say, cut to me.
How the fuck are we still on air?
Honestly,
this is absolutely insane.
No, this is way better than just cutting to you and you giving a normal open.
Yeah.
Way better.
That's true.
Nothing is going to make viewers happier than a 5-minute countdown followed by 30 seconds of black screen.
I think they like to watch it and look at these idiots. Look at how these idiots operate.
Every day.
They keep turning
581 episodes. We can't dial it in one fucking time.
That's how many we're at? Out of those 581 episodes, how many times have we cut to a black screen? How many times have we cut to a black screen out of 581 episodes?
Tell him, Guapo.
Once is enough.
More than once, yeah.
We want to go to mattresses now.
Cutting to a black screen, not that big of a deal.
All right, chat, let us know. Would you prefer to cut to a black screen or Matt unprepared? Let us know.
I was not unprepared. I was just sitting here. What the fuck is the only one?
We're going to let the audience decide.
Clearly, the only one unprepared is the guy who didn't turn the fucking camera on.
I'm the man of the people.
Oh, it's Monday. It's good to be back, guys. It's good to be back. Yeah.
We
Miss you
need
guys.
man.
I miss you.
Look at our dad
I
just
tell you
calm
what,
everything down.
every time I leave, this place falls apart.
Look, our dad just comes in here and calms everything down. You
Yeah.
saw how smooth that was?
Man.
The transition to that? He
what
was
I
like,
do.
listen, kids, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I think that's called de-escalating.
Let me tell you about my weekend.
Oh, yeah, you weren't here.
I wasn't here. I was, with
Everybody
all the
shut
old
up and
people
let me
with the
tell you about
Dave
my
show.
weekend.
Listen.
Man, what was that crowd like?
Oh man, it's so funny because you just look around and you're just like, what the fuck are all these old people doing here?
You're old.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
and then
dawned
you're
on
like,
him.
oh wait, this is just my demographic now. I got it.
I got to tell you, seeing you in whoever decided to make a baseball jersey or whatever the hell that was.
I'm actually not sure, but it's like the greatest shirt that I maybe have ever bought in my entire life.
Wait a minute. Who is the equivalent of like your parents going to a concert like this?
Like the Grateful Dead.
Yeah, well, yeah, like
Deadheads.
Deadheads.
He's a dancing Nancy.
Yeah.
But this is like you guys were kids and then like your parents would be like, oh, like I'm going to go to this concert and have fun.
Yeah.
Right.
So you become the thing that you hate the most.
They would get real high. And
bands from the 70s.
Well,
basically.
specifically, specifically Dave Matthews and the Grateful Dead. These are like jam bands.
It's Dead and Company now.
Well, I don't
with John
care.
Mayer.
I don't care. But yeah, John Mayer rips. I know.
Michelle's my parents went there. Mom and stepdad
There you
went
go.
to it.
There you have it.
Oh, yeah. Looked like a really cool show.
Wow. So
Sure.
what's my version of this when I become 40?
Great question.
Whatever, I don't know. Whatever the hell
Chapel
is
Rowan.
the music nowadays.
Chapel Rowan.
Kids,
3-6 Mafia landed.
kids
No,
these
No,
days.
he wasn't born for 3-6 Mafia.
No.
No,
Would it be like Chris Daughtry?
no.
No, it would be like, I don't know. Who was like your favorite?
Daughtry's our time.
Basically, who's your favorite band right now? Right now and like the past 5 years?
My favorite band right now?
The thing
Throughout
is,
the last 5 years or
music,
so, yeah.
music now
Like
isn't
Nickelback?
Nickelback?
that,
yeah.
that's coming back around.
Who sings the booty song?
Music now isn't really
Band-oriented.
built to last.
It feels that way.
It's very much like the meme cycles.
Right.
You know, like you flow in, you flow out kind of thing. I don't know. I'm sure there will be some generational talent that comes out of the Zoomer gen.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure there is.
what, Keisha?
Taylor Swift,
Kesha?
I guess.
Yeah, but like Lamanna's gonna claim it.
Taylor Swift has been around since what, like 2006? ish.
No, I think later than that. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It's more our generation than theirs, I think.
Yeah.
It touches.
She's flowing into, but like start like that.
She
tail end
spans.
of
She
ours.
spans generations.
She does. She really
Are you
does.
saying that she withstands the test of time?
That's absolutely
The
correct.
music
That's
hall
right.
of, does the music
Yeah.
have a hall of fame? Is it like a music
Yeah,
hall?
the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You ever heard of it?
Can't know.
No.
No, wait. That's
Canton.
baseball.
Yeah.
No, that's football. Football's in Canton.
Football's
Canton
in
is
Canton.
football.
Cleveland is
Yeah,
the Rock and
Cleveland.
Roll Hall of Fame.
Correct.
Why does Ohio get all the fucking Hall of Fames?
I don't know.
Because there's nothing else there.
Nothing
They need
else
to put
do there,
something
yeah.
in there.
Yeah, they got to have some reason to go there.
Skibbity Ohio Riz, bro.
I mean, there's no reason to go to Pittsburgh, so.
Wow. You couldn't be any more wrong. There, buddy.
Actually, there's a great chicken parm down the block from where we stayed.
You know what? I'll tell you what.
I was impressed.
You say that to my face, you might end up like homie here in the MGM.
Oh, wow.
I'm just saying.
Don't all four of you get waxed real quick.
This man.
Look at all that blood.
He's asleep.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
He just laid both their big asses straight out.
Wait a minute. What's the context here?
We don't
know.
But it looks like, if you're going to ask me, it looked like that basically those two, or the guy in the white, escalated the situation and put his hands on this guy, and then he knocked him and his friend out. But respect the guy. He didn't swing at the woman or anything like that. He just kind of tried to get her out of the way.
I think he was saying something like them, like those two were not talking to him very nicely, and then he probably got hit first.
No, he said that he was being respectful to his girlfriend, and then this guy put his hands on him.
Yeah.
And once he put his hands on him, it was night to all him and everybody he knew. I
somebody-
don't think he can go back home, honestly.
Somebody in the comments zoomed in on the dude with the rainbow shirt and just said, Run DMC is cooked.
Chad, is he cooked?
These guys feel like, I feel like these dudes who got knocked out are a little bit too old to be picking a fight with somebody bigger than them.
It's true.
Also, pretty clear they don't know how to fight. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like this is where I
think
feel
everybody
fortunate I
thinks
don't
they know
drink.
how to fight until they get into a fight.
Yeah. Got folded like an omelet.
I mean, if you can't take a hit, that's a big boy. That's swinging at you.
It's not even about taking a hit, right? Like, this is where I'm very happy I don't drink, because I feel like ideas run through your head. You know how like Landon and I are in the gym one day and we're like, hey, we're going to dunk a basketball.
Yeah.
Like, that's a bad idea.
Right.
That's a bad idea that doesn't
you.
run through a good filter.
It's a bad idea
Right.
for you. It's a sad idea that I can't for me.
Yeah, both.
No, beer muscles is a thing.
Right, but like now if you're drunk, instead of it like, oh, I can dunk a basketball, it's like, exactly.
Well, I mean, we
and
saw
then you
this.
just look to your left and you're like, well, there's two of us.
We saw this with the Sean Winter gym bet.
Oh, yeah.
They were drunk. They were trying to lift weights.
Drunk, benching like 225 or maybe more. Might have been like 285.
I asked Sean about that in Florida, actually. The main story is that they bet that, who was the other guy?
It was Brian Hastings. Oh, no. Sorry. Hastings was just doing curls in the corner.
It was like Clemens or something? Or
Maybe Scott Clements.
Yeah. Then Sean needed to bench within 50 pounds of Sean, of the other Sean. I guess there's two Sean.
No.
Robert, what's his name? Robert?
Scott Clements.
Oh, got it. Sorry. Monday.
Kids.
But yeah, so he got his, but then Clements didn't because he was drunk and kept trying again, and he almost like collapsed the bar on his chest.
No, that was Winter that
It happened to both of them.
Oh, I see.
This was not recorded, unfortunately. We
I
only
see.
have the Sean Winter
It's
one.
a shame. It's a shame that there's no video of him like
It would be out now, for
drunkenly
sure.
getting it up, because then we could have submitted it to the
Cap guy?
Yeah, I can't
Too
think
buff
of it.
for this?
Too buff for this. Yeah. Be like, hold up, my man is blacked out drunk about to do 1.25 Lizzos.
I'm sure we missed out on so much good social media stuff. Like, call it back then.
You say missed out. I say memories.
Yeah,
you know?
but now I don't get to see them.
Right.
I just have to hear them through your
Aren't the stories
embezzlement.
Embezzlement?
Or
Embellishment.
Exact embellishment.
Embezzlement.
Boy, am I rubbing off on you?
Yeah.
Embezzlement's a whole different story that we actually might get into at some point today.
Yeah, probably.
We'll save that for a little bit later.
Save your questions till the end.
Big shout out to, before we get into the ACR stuff, a man who needs no introduction. He did the damn thing on ACR itself. Let's give it up for Sven.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great job, Sven.
Good job, Sven.
Bravo.
Sven McDermott.
The Svens are taking over.
Second.
No fucking idea who this guy is. But
I know
respect.
who it is. He's a Twitch streamer.
Don't care. Respect to the name, sir.
Shout out to Sven.
What happened? He only got second.
Respectfully.
He got second.
Oh, he lost to.
Got scammed.
Yeah, he got scanned. He lost to a bot, obviously. What else would happen? Oh man. Okay. Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
Should we get into this?
And game talent needs some budget.
Do we have to get into this?
There's a lot to go over.
There is a lot to
Seems
go.
like there's a lot to go over.
I mean,
a lot going on.
is it even a big deal?
I don't think so.
We're in the poker community.
I think
shit.
we're immune to it. Now
I mean, it's so long ago. So it feels like.
We touched on this on Friday during the call-in stream, which none of you saw.
That's on them.
Shout out to all the viewers. We appreciate your participation. And by viewers, I mean Jace and Sean Penn.
Don't forget about Jenna.
Oh, Jeno. Yeah, she got the ball rolling. Yeah, we touched on it on Friday when this first broke, when Thomas retweeted a Ludwig stream. And I was just like, I mean, this is old news, right? We've all known for a long time that Scott Ball allegedly misuses funds and allegedly cheated app games and allegedly ran his company into the ground. Like, what's new here? But then the Twitterverse, it was a fresh story for them. Yeah. A lot of them were fuzzy on the details, didn't really know what all was going on. Well, a lot of mainstream streamers coming forward.
A lot of people added in on it too.
Right.
Like, we've seen this before, blah, 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 or stuff like that.
Yeah. So I thought today was a good opportunity to kind of comb back over the entire timeline of endgame talent, its origin story.
The lore.
Yeah, and all the things that are tied to it. Specifically, if you guys recall, we'll get into this a little bit later, but there was a point in 2021 where Matisal whistle blew all this stuff.
This was 21?
Yeah, end of 2021. And I want to give Mikey his props. We talked about it a little bit then, but it was one of those things where wasn't sure how much of this information was accurate, wasn't sure how much of this information was public. We hinted around a lot of things back then, but now I think in hindsight, we can pretty confidently look back at what Mikey was saying and just kind of say he got this one right.
The truth of the matter is he keeps going back to the past when Scammer Boy, Scott Ball, was running the game. And what was happening is, going to the whole story.
Of any sponsorship that he ever did was working with ACR. I think we're going to roll that clip now.
Segundo.
Of all the sponsors you've done, which one do you regret the most? The sponsor that I regret the most is a poker company I used to work with called American Card Room. I was only sponsored to play poker. They did have a casino, but I never got sponsored to play the casino, only the poker. Now, you might think I regret it because I was promoting gambling or something. I didn't give a fuck about that. I think poker is a dope game. I think anyone should be allowed to play poker if they're of age and have enough funds and money and understand the game, of course. So I actually don't have a problem with that at all. The reason I regret it is because that company refused to pay me out. And the money that I earned playing poker, because I won a bunch of tournaments, I would then gamble on their site. And it was so fucking hard to pull the money out. And so if it's hard for me, it means it's hard for the other people who I was promoting it to play poker. And so I stopped working with them because I think they're kind of a dog shit site.
Had to get that little knife twist in there.
Base Ludwig.
Okay, so there's a little bit to unpack here because this ultimately is a bit of an adjacent tangent from where this whole thing ended up spiraling out of control too. So basically, Ludwig gives the details that he did a deal with ACR, and it sounds like it was, some sort of sponsorship to play poker on there. I don't know what the actual terms of the deal were as far as, him getting free rolled some amount to play with versus getting paid an hourly or whatever the case may be. But it sounds like,
I think it was like contract per streams.
Right. Okay.
Or like per time. Like you have to stream this amount or do this many streams that are a minimum of these amount of hours.
Right.
In order to get paid.
Right. Okay. And from there, it sounds like basically he was slow paid, no paid on some of his winnings, on the contract itself, and things of that nature. He also touched on the fact that it's like difficult to get money off the site. I imagine that that's because he didn't deposit. So I've run into this issue in the past before where I've swapped like cash for ACR dollars or whatever, and if you don't play a certain amount of poker on there, you can't just like immediately cash it out to crypto.
Yeah,
so,
they have to like verify a bunch of stuff and
right.
Whatever.
Now it did sound like he played some, but how much and whether or not that was enough to get it cashed out is uncertain. Anyway, point is that
it wouldn't matter for someone like him.
It shouldn't matter, right? But go ahead.
Sorry, what I got out of this was basically he went to the casino and he was gambling.
He said he did not play on the casino. He specifically said he didn't play on the casino.
Yeah. I thought he said he wasn't contracted to play on the casino.
He did say that.
He did and won. I guess he won and just I was getting slow paid off of it.
He said he won tournaments.
Okay.
He just won money playing tournaments, and I would imagine.
I thought then he took that money and was gambling.
Maybe, but either way,
I just do know that there's limits probably to how much you can take off per X amount of time.
That was what I was kind of getting around to is I don't know that the issues that he highlighted here are actually that commonplace on ACR.
I doubt it.
I don't think getting paid out is actually
it's not
a huge hurdle.
I don't think it is at all.
I've never had an issue, but like I think it's an issue that he should not have by being contracted by like site adjacent, right?
It's actually kind of funny because the whole circle of this thing, I don't think ACR has anything to do with this really. Like they're just kind of getting screwed here.
Well, yes and no.
In a way.
Yes and no. I mean,
they're getting screwed by having some weird guy to take over all of this stuff.
Right. Like as a company, you don't get to just opt out when a third party contractor you hire fucks you.
Yeah,
where's my money? Yeah, I got third party. I'm part of the cool kids now getting third partied and shit.
I'm really close to locking that deal down, by the way, Landon.
I'm sure you are.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like kind of the same thing for you, where it wasn't technically Ignition that rugged you; it was the third-party company.
Yeah.
But like Ignition just won't even deal with it.
No.
And it sounds like that ACR is kind of in a very similar situation in this scenario where.
Well, Nagy said he'd deal with it.
Well, right, but that was that
was before he found precedence in your case. He's like, fuck that.
Yeah. Look, like I get it, like don't give me the money, but like you look at like Ludwig, like XQC, like Botes, like you probably want to pay those, like Trainwrecks, like you want to pay those guys. Like me, I get it, small time.
Yeah,
small
so we kind of touched on this yesterday, where if you believe an influencer can grow your brand, they can certainly destroy it equally as likely. And what Landon's referencing is a tweet that Alexandra Botes put out later. So she was quote tweeting Thomas, basically giving more context. And she said, ACR hasn't paid out dozens of its creators for sponsored streams from well over a year ago, myself included. ACR contracted Endgame talent and blames them for ripping them off. While that complicates things, I spoke with the CEO, aka Nagy, who promised to make things right, but instead ghosted. They are not trustworthy. So this is where it takes an interesting twist, because this is the first introduction of the third-party contract, which was by Endgame Talent, a talent agency headed by one Scott Ball, who used to be the head of Poker Twitch. Now, basically, what I was saying just recently was, maybe ACR can legally detach themselves because they have a contract in place with Endgame, who then has contracts in place with the talent. And when the middle person falls through, all of that responsibility does kind of probably fall onto the person who signed the deals. But
so ACR would essentially have to pay twice.
They should from a public
I'm
relations
just stating
standpoint.
that they'd have to pay twice.
Right? I don't think legally, no. I think that's what they're kind of standing on business with, where it's like, we had a contract with Endgame, they fucked you, not us. And you signed a contract with Endgame, not us. So just because you're representing our site doesn't mean that we're responsible. But it gets a little bit shaky then whenever it's like Botez spoke specifically to Nagy, who said, I'm going to make this right. And then ultimately realizes he can't make it right because he still works for somebody above him.
Your quote
That's like,
tweet's insane.
We're not paying twice.
Your
The one of Moneymaker?
I mean, fucking good. Sick brag, bro.
Yeah, it's just like
congrats on the bag.
For context, Moneymaker was saying how he got paid, right? And he said that.
Well, I think it's just different, right? Like Moneymaker and like the ACR pros deal with ACR themselves
directly,
and then Endgame is like the third party that kind of fucked over the bigger creators that could actually destroy the ACR brand as a whole.
Exactly, and legally, I'm on the side that ACR probably is removed of responsibility here. Like,
I would assume so.
I would imagine there are liability contracts in place where everything falls on Endgame talent.
Well, I mean, that's what's happening, right? Where they're saying like, if you try to force laws, like force action, we're going to declare bankruptcy, and then no one ever gets paid ever.
The only problem I see with this is that Nagy actually came out and said, we're going to make this clear.
Well,
like,
but he didn't do it publicly, so that's...
Well, it doesn't matter. He said it to her.
Exactly,
Like,
and she has enough reach to kind of make that public.
Yeah, it's not like...
He said it, and that's enough. Ignition said nothing to me, so they're fine.
It was as precedence was set before.
Yeah, exactly.
You keep your silence.
See exhibit A.
Once you break your silence, it's kind of you find yourself in a bad spot.
Group that paid you, that was supposed to pay you.
It's called Rumble Gaming, but I don't even know if they exist anymore.
Probably not.
I don't think they exist.
If they did, I need some money.
What a sick fucking rug, man. Like, honestly,
I'm surprised I got paid as much as I did.
I don't know how this even works because it's my understanding of if you create an LLC is that like it's basically a shell and it protects you personally from being sued. So as long as the company itself doesn't have assets, you can just go steal as much as you fucking want. I mean, I'm being very liberal.
Hey, it's not stealing, it's promised.
Right. I'm being very liberal in what I'm saying, but like, just declare bankruptcy at the end of it and the company just collapses. You know what I mean?
Declare bankruptcy.
I mean, it's literally called limited liability.
Right. Shout out to Lee Jones. He said 100% what Matt said. Thought experiment. 2007 PokerStars contracts with a third party to pay some people for some service. Contractor vanishes into the wind. What does Eastside do? If I had to guess,
it's not even close.
Eastside pays.
We never heard about it.
Exactly.
We would have heard about
Precisely.
this shit.
The fact that I don't know this story, Lee, indicates to me that Eastside probably made right by the people that were contracted to do a service.
And it probably wasn't even like a conversation. It was just like, you know what? Fuck, I got fucked here. Here you go.
I mean,
at some point, though, the dollar amount has to matter, right?
I was going to say the numbers that they promised all the people.
What point can that be for a $100 million company?
I don't know.
Like, honestly,
I don't know, but I would
that be?
I would wager Nagy doesn't have the authority to make that call.
$101 million.
I mean, if it's $1 million, like that $1 million is the top end of it, right?
They promised XQC that for 4 hours.
No,
not the top end.
Not the top end.
I don't think that's the top end.
2 million.
I think it might be closer to like 5.
Okay. All right. Well, then.
I'm speculating, obviously.
As precedent was set, Ignition went away.
I'm speculating, obviously.
I want a new precedent.
We'll get to why, but
give me my fucking money.
There's indications that some really big contracts were proposed, so I think it might be higher. So to follow up to the Botez tweet, Brandon Freitag, who I believe is the founder of Loaded LLC, which is one of the biggest talent agencies for gamers, and the company that represents at least Botez, if not others, said this is completely accurate. We contracted with Endgame Talent for ACR and have yet to receive full payment. Loaded has initiated a lawsuit and is currently in the process of attempting to collect the money that's owed. Now, we looked this up and that can be verified. Loaded versus Endgame Talent was a lawsuit that was filed February 27th in this year. It looks as though it was refreshed as recently as yesterday. And I think that they got the judgment ruled against them. Now, I can't look into all these PDFs, but the last docketed event that was updated was June 27th. And it says default judgment by court entitled for plaintiff Loaded LLC against defendant Endgame Talent on the complaint filed by Loaded for damages on $664,500 with an interest of $53,064 and a cost of $747 for a total of $718,331.
So this is just the people that are represented by Loaded, right? So I'm sure there's other people not with Loaded.
Well, yeah.
I would imagine so, yes.
I mean, I would speculate that we'd see them come out very shortly if they're owed money.
Well, they may have already come out. The thing is, we don't know who's doing the deals, right? We only know that Loaded is affiliated with Botez because
Botez came out.
Well, Botez went public and then Brandon replied. Right?
So wait, let me get this straight. So Botez is represented by Loaded.
Yes.
And then Loaded went to Endgame to get her that deal.
Endgame went to Loaded.
Or Endgame went to Loaded to get a deal with Botez.
Yeah.
Correct.
They're like, hey, we want someone to stream poker for us.
So what also, it sounds like they did give them a piece of the contract, like to start.
Well, yeah, I imagine
deposit
I imagine there
or
was some
something?
good faith money put down.
That's what it seems
I imagine they were paid something, just not all of it. But like, you know, look,
if it was all of it, there'd be no problems.
Right.
No, of course. But I was just thinking like there should be like some type of retainer for something like that.
Sure, I'm sure that there was, you know, maybe whatever industry standard is 10, 20%.
Yeah,
whatever.
in his wording, it seemed like there was.
Right.
Maybe it was a promissory note.
Right. Yes, exactly. So it sounds like it sounds as though at least $750,000 has been slept on. I got to tell you, I don't know how I have anything wrong. The only number I've said so far is $750K. Jimmy Bluffett said, I talked to Scott Ball last night. You have the numbers all wrong, respectfully. I got to tell you, I don't believe a fucking word that Ball says. And he has a settlement against him for $750,000. So I don't really know how far off I could be as of now. Of course, I'm speculating that it's much more than $750,000. And one of the reasons why I'm able to speculate that is because of this XQC Trainwreck stream that went not viral, but went public a few days ago. Guapo, I think if you want to start this clip at around 150 mark,
you got it, boss.
It's going to divulge the deal that he was offered and ultimately turned down because he said it was too good to be true.
Let me refresh. Give me one.
Yeah, no problem. Internet issues. Been going through it, man. Landon had a tough Sunday yesterday.
Rough Sunday.
Just disconnect right. It's like they know, you know.
It really is.
We didn't take it. Down to the sheriff's. Oh, Texas. Yeah. The one that declined. Oh my God. Shine here. Door now open.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like it's like
Bro, I literally said it. I literally told, I told everybody in my agents, everybody that knew about the deal. I said it. This looks too good to be true. I wouldn't do it, right? And they ended up not paying out anybody. ACR, America's Card Room. They ended up paying out nobody for all the sponsorships. People.
How much were the deals? How much were they?
Bro.
They got scammed so hard.
Bro, it was amounts that like.
If you knew, you would know why they're not paying out.
Yeah.
Like how much? Like just same amount.
For me, it was like a normal sponsor, right? A normal thing. It was gonna be like two small stream segments. It was 1 mil. As soon as you try to get back into the round, for like I don't remember, like 4 hours. Here comes a Viper Molly.
That's good.
So imagine for everybody else.
Yeah. So XQC.
He's seen this story before, man.
Right. Pretty sure. Honestly,
$1 million for 4 hours.
Do you have to understand? Like, let's just do a little thought experiment here. Do you know how confident you have to be that deal is fugazi in order to turn down a 4-hour stream for $1 million?
Right.
Well, as we were saying, this might have been kind of silly. It seems like they were giving retainers. Could have locked himself at least 200 up.
Yeah, but okay. So let's say that he gets a 100K retainer.
Yeah.
Right now he just did it for a 90% discount because that's probably all he's going to get.
I mean, you get a lawsuit.
Sure,
but he still gets $100,000.
Then you lose the 100 in having to sue him.
That's true. It's all bad. This is a waste of time. Actually, he's a genius.
Right. And think,
time? Oh my God, you guys, how rich?
Think of it this way. Well, I mean, these guys are getting a ton of deals, but think of it this way. Even if he's 90% confident that the deal is fugazi, that means that it's not worth it for him to do it for 100K, which I assume, as you kind of pointed out with the retainer aspect, he would at least consider it for 100K.
Yeah.
Right? 25K an hour is pretty fucking good. He'd probably leave.
Yeah.
So that means he's probably closer.
Not too bad.
He's probably closer to being on the side of like 99% confident that it's fugazi, which means he's unwilling to do it for $10,000. And that's very reasonable, right? Like if you thought your EV in $1 million deal was actually 10K, pretty easy spot to just kind of be
He's
like,
still
my
getting
hourly's
paid
worth
$2,500.
Yeah, but his hourly's for sure worth more than that.
Stakes paying,
right? Like, yeah, there's a reason he got offered $1 million deal, right? And also, to your side of things, like, okay, well, at least you might get the retainer aspect of it, but like, there's a huge risk of now being aligned with this whole fucking thing. And it's okay in the sense that like it ultimately ended up being a big group of people. So they're now collectively all victims of this situation.
But it would look really shitty, like if you're just
if it was just XQC, and he showed this to his entire audience, and then at the end of the day, like they just rugged him, and he can't really do anything. You know what I mean? It's like loaning somebody.
You kind of see this in crypto all the time,
for sure.
Yeah,
for
like,
sure.
Like with NFT or whatever coins, like somebody just like I know I've seen a case recently where somebody basically was promoting a coin and then immediately it rugged. And they get absolutely torched in the community from a lot. So it's like, it's you got to protect your brand, kind of.
Yeah, and once you lose the credibility, it's very hard to get it back.
Yeah. So the reason why I'm speculating this number that ACR likely paid Ball to be very high is because of a deal like this. Now, to be fair, Ball was never going to pay anyway. So he can throw out whatever fucking numbers he wants if he never actually has to make good. So maybe ACR didn't give him that much money. But if they didn't give him that much money, they would just make good, I think, right? Unless they were totally unaware of the deals that Ball was offering. And that could be a thing too, I suppose. Like you could almost play or have a plea of complete ignorance where it's like, maybe they gave Ball a $500,000 budget. And he goes out and offers like $200,000 to all these different creators, creating a total of like $4 million that's on the streets. And ACR is just like, I never agreed to any of this. And Ball's just kind of like, it doesn't matter to me, man. I just kept the money you gave me anyway. But that would be really dumb. Like that would be a really dumb. Even if you did plan on keeping the money, it would just be really dumb to go that route. Yeah. Because all you're doing is, I guess like you're robbing the content creators, but you're over delivering now to ACR, where you have no desire to keep this spiel up. Like it's not like you're gonna be able to get away with this multiple times,
right? No,
you know what I mean. It's a smash and grab. So if this is what happened, again, like we're speculating here. I imagine the numbers of. Why is it an ostrich?
It's a fucking ostrich.
I'm cooking over here.
You really are cooking. I love it.
Oh man. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what the numbers are or what they ultimately settled on, but ACR did release a statement in a PokerGo article that basically corroborates like what we're saying. They hired. So the statement was, we contracted. Poker Org said we contacted ACR Poker. The spokesperson told us that an arrangement through a third-party talent agency ended with serious disputes over the compensation of streamers. So maybe it is what I'm saying, where Scott offered a lot more than they were willing to pay.
Sounds like it. Sounds like you're just like handing out money they didn't have.
Well, or that he just made off with the funds.
Or he was just contracted through Endgame and ACR, had a contract between Endgame and ACR paying him X amount of money so he can get other people affiliated.
Yeah.
So like as if like ACR is not in contact with that money.
That was what I was speculating.
That's what I'm speculating.
So you think ACR had a bunch of money. They gave it to Endgame to go do stuff with. They hired them to do all this stuff.
Yes.
Endgame then promised to send money to streamers, content creators, whatever. They ended up not paying them. And now here we are.
The way that this generally works would be you would have a monthly budget.
Like marketing budget.
A marketing budget that you offer Endgame talent. Like let's say it's $30K a month. You pay that to Scott. Scott then decides how much of that gets allocated to streamers and what his cut of the revenue share is.
Like
right?
He's getting paid out of this money to do the work.
Yeah, so maybe he keeps 10 and budget's 20 per month, right? And the thing is though, if it were a standard deal like that, it would be very, very hard for maybe not, because people are slow.
Well, like how would they know any better? And people, because they think if they complain, you'll get paid.
Because the streamers, much like you, would reach out to ACR demanding payment.
Well, they did.
Right, but it took...
Ignition never got back to me.
It took a year, right? Like, so maybe what had happened was the two agencies were trying to work things out in the near term. So ACR was none the wiser.
Agency being Endgame and
Loaded or whoever else, whatever other talent agency there was. So I could see where this would go on for many months. And perhaps it was with the intention of making everything good, right? Like maybe Scott just got behind the 8 ball and thought he'd have an inflow of money that he could make it all right by the end. But eventually, like, that house of cards falls. If that were the case, though, it would either have to be a very big monthly budget, or it's not nearly the amount of money that we're speculating it to be. So like $750K might just be the top, but it's at least the floor. We know that much, right? Sure. The suit was for that much, so like we at least know that that's the floor. ACR went on to say that they paid the central agency, which was to pay the streamers through their respective talent agencies. That arrangement unfortunately ended with serious disputes about whether the central agency stiffed or underpaid the various talent agencies or their individual streamer clients. ACR stands by our positive track record with sponsored players, marketing campaigns, and streamer talent agencies. The company that reportedly failed to pay talent agencies is believed to have been sued by the streamers' talent agencies. I mean, all of this tracks, and I think all of this gives ACR kind of an easy out legally, but I do think it's like bad PR, obviously,
right?
Which they're not new to. You know, this is nothing new.
No.
And I think what was curious to me, and we'll get a lot more into the timeline here of how this all unfolds, but Nagy just has these nefarious relationships with people that have terrible track records in the poker industry for years. So him and Scott were very close. They had done a lot of business behind the scenes. Scott can be seen wearing an ACR Team Pro patch in his bracelet win, I believe in 2021 or something along those lines. So, this is very much like ACR doesn't need endgame talent in this instance, right? Yeah. Like they could have just went directly to Loaded. They could have went directly to the streamers themselves, whatever the case may be. And you could see that like ACR had a budding relationship with Scott and clearly wanted to throw work his way in some sort of capacity. Nagy replies, "You're of the good guys." You know what I mean? Like clearly there was a kinship here or a friendship here that at a bare minimum on the public face seemed like Nagy thought was very honest and on the up and up. So for this ultimately to come like crashing down, I do think that there was a breach of trust somewhere. I think that, something may have happened, but Nagy's also very close with Chris Fitz and does a lot of business with him. And there's a lot of speculation to what degree. We've had a couple whistleblowers from the Ali stable, which Chris Fitz managed, come forward and disclose that stable was doing business with Nagy on the back end in order to keep accounts running and things of that nature. So who knows? I mean, that's all speculation. It's all being reported by people who were on the inside, but there aren't really great receipts. I've seen a ton of the text logs. I've seen a ton of the back and forth. And, to be quite frank, Ali and Chris were just good at covering their tracks. They were just pretty good at not divulging smoking guns via text. But, the relationship between Nagy and Fitz can't be denied. Like, you can go all the way back to like pre-COVID and Fitz was in Costa Rica for the cage. Like, it's very clear that they work together. And to tie that whole loop together, Chris Fitz and Ball were partners. Fitz was allegedly his, what did he call him? He called him his assistant, his personal assistant, which, maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. I was told he was his accountant, but we'll get a lot into those details whenever we start to talk about the Helmuth app game, where much more of this comes to light. With regards to Ball, he released a statement after giving no comment to PokerOrg, which I find to be strange. So PokerOrg reaches out, says, "We're writing this article about you. It doesn't look good, cuz. Do you have anything to say for yourself?" And it just says, "Scott Ball, no comment," right? Then a day later, he replies to ACR, Nagy, and PokerOrg. He doesn't even reply to them. He just ats them and says, "This response," i.e. the article, "appears to be a creative and transparent attempt at obfuscation and deflection, drafted by somebody who seems to be unfamiliar with the facts of the matter." A complete and correct accounting of the ACR third party and influencer dealings would provide a more interesting and relevant read. I would be happy to send materials in my possession, including contracts and communications, to a neutral third party to assess if ACR approves of that action and agrees to do the same. A caveat of this offer would be that all the materials we submit would be available to the public. Interested parties may DM me. Now, this is a really odd.
What does that mean in like a sentence? You know, a lot of words there.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
He's got to be watching, so you can just send him on over.
Moving the third party.
Send him on over. I would love taking a look.
Like, this is the part that I don't understand what any of that word salad means.
The justice court.
I just don't understand what any of that word salad means because he just did this for court. He had to have done this for court.
Yeah.
Right.
He went to court?
He lost.
He was, to my understanding, June 27th. Look, June 27th in Loaded versus Endgame Talent. Default judgment by court entered for plaintiff Loaded LLC against defendant Endgame Talent LLC.
Secret meeting.
I mean, like, I don't know if it sounds as though he was ruled against, but Loaded is unable to collect. That was what I was understanding from the tweet that Brandon put out.
So did they really lose?
I mean, it happens all the time, buddy.
Yeah. Like, what does it mean? They just okay, they lost, but they don't pay any money.
Well, he'll be forced to either pay or go bankrupt. So I imagine we'll see Endgame Talent going bankrupt
soon.
soon.
They ain't paying.
No, he's obviously not paying. I mean, I think that.
I just mean, like, if they go bankrupt, like, what's the worst that happens?
Nothing. That's the point of these shell companies. Like that's why LLCs are.
This is obviously what happened, right?
Speculatively. It seems
allegedly.
What I don't understand is this reply though. What are you trying to get out to the public?
Allegedly.
Like, what are you trying to, what new information are you putting out to the public? Right? He's basically saying, I'll release all of the contracts between myself and ACR, as well as myself and the content creators. It's like, okay. And
like ACR has no actual obligation to like fill these contracts themselves.
That's the only thing that I could see him having a case for, is if like somewhere in the fine print he wrote between the contract of him and ACR that should they default, ACR has to pick up the slack.
Which didn't happen because clearly they would have.
I don't know.
Well, it would have been brought up in the court case. If that was,
maybe, but ACR's not on trial, so I don't know.
But I'm saying if you would think that he would win if there was something like that in the contract.
Probably,
maybe
right?
not win.
You would
I
think that like it's not a thing if something like that is in the contract.
Yeah. Why is Kuhn calling me right now as if he's not watching the show?
You might as well
Buddy,
pick it up.
What do you want from me, man? I'm live. You know, I don't know what to tell you.
I'm live.
Let me get through this and we can talk afterwards. I don't know what to tell you, man. Yeah, so like I don't know what the legalities of it are. It seems like a free roll for ACR to just agree to this and say like, fuck yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
The only downside would be that I think content creators would be hesitant to work with them in the future because now their business is getting kind of outed, you know? But I don't know. I mean, this is just messy, you know? It's just super messy. What's clear is that content creators went unpaid.
Right.
What's also clear is that Endgame Talent was hired by ACR.
Right.
Beyond that, I don't know who is liable. I don't know who's on the hook. I don't know for what number. But it all sounds like it is big. And it's not great for ACR, who probably doesn't want to have to pay twice. You know? Like, nor should they want to. Mm-hmm. I don't know exactly how they want to make good on this, or if they even should or need to. Like, at the end of the day, what fucking power do the content creators even have here? Just blast ACR and say don't do business with them in the future?
Well, when it comes around to it, they gonna realize this kind of isn't ACR's fault, I think.
Like, I mean, it is. They contracted Endgame.
Of course.
But it's also kind of on like the other talent agencies for working with
Endgame.
Scott.
Exactly.
Yeah, but like, how can you know any better until it falls through?
I mean, if you do your research and you dig through the poker community, find me somebody who had something nice to say about Scott Ball.
Bill Nagy?
Landon once said that was one of his best friends and we went to dinner with him.
No.
He said, hey, you want to go to dinner with my friend?
On. You and I went to breakfast and then he came over with his girl thing.
Yeah. Hey, I have an idea. If you're a content creator, couldn't you start setting precedent and saying, hey, look, I would love to work with your company, but I need to get paid first? Is that crazy? I mean, is that?
I
just
don't think
unheard
that's
of?
crazy at all. I actually don't think that's crazy at all. I think that's very reasonable. I imagine that for these numbers, it's probably not standard, because then what power does what power would the company have to claw back?
No, it works the other way, where the person, the content
you give too much
creator
power to the
can
content
step-
creator.
Yeah.
I think so.
Wait, do you?
Huh? Check my message. WhatsApp.
Okay.
Yeah.
Conrad has a secret conversation going on in real time.
I do have a secret conversation going on.
Okay, Nagy wants to call in. I suppose we should just let that happen.
Yeah.
I'm all ears.
Obviously.
All right, Nagy, we'll send you. I'm gonna send it to Rob. Send me the link.
The Zoom link. You got it. I'll send it.
This is
over.
exciting.
I'm all ears. This is gonna be great, man. It's funny because like this is the most relevant conversation, but what I was most excited to talk about was validating Matisau for all of the claims that he had against Scott.
Let's get Mike in the call.
We'll get there.
Yeah, let's get Mikey on the phone.
This sounds to me like a Joey stream from Console.
We don't need to get Mikey here. We have 3 clips from a podcast that's 5 years old, and we're all very succinct.
And we filter them down.
Yeah,
That's plenty.
We have plenty of Mike.
We've done the hard part, so you don't have to.
Right.
Send me the Zoom.
Man.
Yeah. So
This is pandemonium. I love it.
So while we're waiting, I suppose, for the Zoom to get off,
This is my favorite.
you know, kind of going back to the character of Scott Ball and like where he falls into the ethos of the poker community and why maybe.
Well, no, but seriously, like you talk to Nagy, you talk to Helmuth, where they both kind of vouch for him, right? Like they both clearly have publicly.
Yeah.
It's hard to be like, oh, like these guys work for things and fill
Yeah, and I don't know what the track record of Endgame was at that point. Maybe they had done a lot of business,
right?
But maybe not. But the thing is that like it's not hard to find the PR, right? Like if you just search Twitter for Scott Ball Endgame talent, like Mike Matisau pops up and it says, "Great CEO. He's a total dirtball and he's a total thief who I'll never forgive." If Scott Ball is a nice guy, I'd hate to see who an asshole is.
People write mean things about you all the time.
Yeah, but not like this.
Nah.
No.
Never.
No, nothing about your ethics.
Yeah,
no, they just
never
say like you
anything
use too many
ethical.
big words and stuff.
Yeah, okay. Like that's not gonna.
Big word Berkey.
And like, you know, Polk also puts a tweet out, says a lot of talk from Matisau about Scott Ball. I just want to say, in my experience, Scott Ball is a complete piece of shit.
That ain't good.
And he would call me to talk about Tonka and Staples back in the day. He ran Twitch Poker. He would lie about everything. He would also beg me for 1K transfers and stuff, which in my opinion is really unprofessional for the head of a department. Additionally, he would talk shit about me all the time, try to buddy up, and then talk shit about me behind my back. Be careful of this guy. I can't say he scammed anyone, but in my experience, he's just a shitty, horrible person. And like for all of us,
he did say he didn't scam anybody.
He said, I can't say that he scammed anybody.
Yeah.
Right.
But like he's not saying, oh, like I have proof that this guy's like kind of like shady.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's like he's bad at being a human.
Well, he did say he's
like,
a shitty, horrible person. That's coming from Doug Polk. So it's like.
Well, like he would probably also say that you're kind of a shitty, horrible person at poker. At poker, right? It doesn't go far to like who are you as a human. It's who are you as a poker player.
Right. Yeah.
Those are two different things.
That is two very different things. But I guess the point is here, like, much like XQC's hesitation to take the deal, is probably born off of just, you know, asking around. Like, oh, hey,
just seeing the number, right?
This is an insane deal. Is it something that I should confidently take? Yeah, but like, look, if he has 50% doubt, he still takes the deal. He has too much EV in it to say no, right?
Maybe, right?
It's being 99% confident that this is bullshit that makes you say no to $1 million deal.
I just mean to a degree, you could also kind of take into the account like how this looks for you if you do it like with your own audience. Like, oh, like he's shilling out for this company and he didn't get paid if he tries to make it a big deal.
Yeah, I agree with you that there's some downside risk there.
I just think that like people,
it's compensated by the likelihood that you get $500,000 on average.
Well, I think you're thinking about it in like an EV sense versus like him, like in his brain about, okay, if this is really bad, this could be horrible.
Agreed. I totally agree. I guess my
like
point
the asymmetric downside or whatever.
Yes. I guess my point is for him to understand the asymmetric downside, he has to be talking to certain people. It can't just be that on the surface the deal's too big.
It's not just like an instant like no, right?
Right.
You would be like, okay, like who is this guy? Where is this coming from? Because
also, like, why not just go to the horse's mouth? Why not just say like, okay, let me go over his head and see if ACR really wants to do this deal. All right.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Speaking of, I think we have the CEO of ACR, Phil Nagy, on the line. Hello, Phil.
No, some dumb guy.
That's me. That's my job.
There we go.
What
if me
what's
walking
going
around
on?
bothers you, then you know,
No,
you're
go
gonna have to
nuts.
roll with it.
Do as you wish.
I'm here for it.
Okay. All right.
Where do you want to begin?
I'll tell you what. Business is really easy, and people are hard.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's you mix in personalities and stuff into stuff, and it's not easy. So go ahead. I'll let you guys start. It's just remember. So I'm in a spot right now that my mom taught me that if I don't have anything nice to say, then I don't generally say anything about anybody.
All right, we'll say the bad stuff for you. That's fine.
It's you go ahead, and then I'll tell you if there's some amount of truth there, or I will reserve this to say no comment. But I'm here. So
Okay.
I guess that says something. I'm dumb enough to be here.
No, that's a great start. All right, so help us understand, I guess, the inner workings of this deal with whatever clarity you can. So as we understand it, you hired in-game talent who then reached out and hired a bunch of influencers to promote the site.
So,
is that accurate?
First of all, it's how hard it is to go get a hold of somebody like Ludwig.
Right.
Like when you live down here in Costa Rica and you're like in your own little bubble, it's really hard to get this stuff done in like first world capacities. I can't go to I don't go to the World Series and rub elbows with you guys and
Sure.
and do all of that.
Okay.
So I rely on third party companies to do a lot of this stuff.
Okay. And Scott was also a friend of yours, so this made a ton of sense.
Let's say Endgame. Yes, Scott. To this day, I do not wish anything bad about Scott. We had a lot of good times, and we're not in contact anymore.
Okay. That makes fair sense. Can you help us understand his reply to the Poker Org article where he wants to go public with the contracts?
Not really. It's the fact is if you really wanted to sue me, you'd have a lawyer. If you had all of this stuff, you'd have a lawyer, and you'd be coming after me. Meanwhile, I've got my lawyer trying to reach out to these agencies, trying to negotiate something. Because I'll be damned. Does anybody like paying for something twice?
No. Look, we're on your side where
we're going to give you that.
Yeah, where it's not fair. It very well may be in the best interest of your PR, but yeah, it's not fair.
Well, so you'll have to go back in history a little bit. I'm not the best at PR. And
we can definitely vouch for that.
That's unbelievable.
I do get a little stubborn when it comes to these kind of things.
Sure.
Okay.
Right?
We may have had some fun at your expense.
That's fine. It's as long as you don't post my phone number on Twitter again, you fuck.
Yeah,
that was obviously an accident.
That was an accident. That was a tough 60 seconds.
It was amazing. It was like the greatest gift you could have given me. Anyway. Go ahead. I don't know if I answered the question because I've already forgotten it, but
it was just his response seemed very strange to us, where he wanted to go public with the contracts, kind of implying that you guys had some liability here.
After a year, you'd have a lawyer, and it'd be in court if that was the case, I imagine.
And as we understand it, it has been in court, and it looks as though he's been ruled against. No, not between you two, between him and Loaded.
Oh, that part I don't know.
Okay,
because
yeah.
That's the thing. That's the thing. It's not me.
Right.
So I don't know that.
Right.
Loaded has gone after the right person.
Right.
Which is Endgame.
Right.
Endgame hasn't come after me because I don't know.
Well, I think we can fill in.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean,
we're poker players, right? We deal with incomplete information.
Sure.
That I can draw my conclusion, and you guys can go ahead and do your thing.
Yeah, look, I think we're all on the same page. We understand how this all shook out. I think like what's more interesting to me, if I can ask you some of the tougher questions, are just your overall relationship with Scott Ball and Chris Fitz, because we haven't gotten to this part yet. But like my comprehension of both those guys over the last 6 to 8 years is that they're both just like bad dudes who do a lot of unsavory shit to make a lot of money. And we'll talk a lot more about it whenever we get into the Helmuth app game. But
I'll tell you,
go ahead.
I'll tell you. It's the fact is it's I guess you guys, especially you guys in live poker, you go out and see the high stakes scene and everything. You really have to be sharp and on top of your game to not get fleeced, to not get just abused in the world of really high stakes poker.
Okay.
For me, for 20 years, I've sat behind a desk down here in Costa Rica and was happy playing 1-2, 2-4. And then I got into the high stakes scene, and dear God, I'm a fairly trusting person, right? So until you prove to me and put my phone number on Twitter that you're an asshole, I just assume you're an okay person.
I gotta tell you, of all the people that you have an axe to grind with, you made the wrong choice. I may have done the thing that was most obviously bad, but
the thing you have to remember about me is I only make fun of people I like.
No. I don't even mind that you're making fun of me.
I've never even said anything about them.
No, I don't even mind, because I think that like you're obviously right. It was a big oversight on my behalf. But my point is that with a little due diligence, I think that, you know, people that are trustworthy in this industry can tell you what pieces of shits these guys are.
I'll tell you what and that's probably one of my biggest flaws is I've had a lot of people tell me this person's bad, this person's bad, this person's bad. And I don't generally pay attention to anybody. I hear it, but I want to evaluate things myself to a fault, just because I've been in that spot where people who have never met me, who don't know me, have so many awful things to say about me that, you know what, if everybody in the world could say, from my experience in dealing with Phil, I would have no negative feedback or little to none.
I get that.
But everybody says, so I try to live my life by meeting people, because I don't know who's a good guy and bad guy.
Right.
And go ahead.
Oh, I would just, not even pushing back, but to add a little bit of context, I would say that I imagine a lot of what feels like a character assassination for you is often just reflective of the role that you play for ACR. So at the end of the day, this is an instance where shit doesn't roll downhill. You know, like you ultimately get your feet held to the fire for literally every single bad action that takes place on ACR and every bit of the bad PR.
Left.
Right.
I can't kick it.
Right. And it's not even that like the implication is that you purposefully did these things. It's just that they happened and somebody has to be held accountable. So often your name is getting dragged.
Yeah. It's and you know, it's you know, my head of security, I fight with my head of security pretty regularly, right? Because I take it really seriously to ban somebody's account. You think about, you know, I don't know, somebody lives in a country that is difficult to play online poker, or it's nobody else accepts. Well, that's how a guy makes a living. So I take his livelihood very seriously. And my head of security says, Phil, he said to me, Phil, I really appreciate the fact that you look for the best in people, but as head of security, I can't do that.
Right.
And I think that's kind of how I got here, is I look for the best in people. To this day, Chris Fitz, so the extent of dealings that I had with Chris Fitz is I loaned him some money so he could start a business.
Okay.
I didn't get it back. And then Scott Ball later on said, I'll vouch for that money.
Okay.
And I never got any of it. But
and so to be clear, to get something out on the record, because I've speculated about this, and I've had multiple people from Ali's stable come to me with not hearsay, like direct first party, they witnessed it kind of thing. They said that you and Fitz had an agreement that allowed them to stay in action on the WPN network.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
He was swapping money for people that were playing and charging it. And this is what I was told. He said, I'm swapping money and making a point here and there, swapping money between all the different sites. And I'd like my boy to do good, so I loaned him some money so he could do his money swapping thing.
But like even that's laundering.
Well, you gotta remember who you're talking to.
My man lives in Costa Rica for a reason, all right? There's a reason why we in Costa Rica.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You like playing poker, don't you?
Jesus Christ.
Oh, man. You know, Nagy, I got to ask you one question. This is a little off topic and all, but it's not even really a question. We need justice for my man RDP. We need justice for Ryan Depaulo. You know, he's a little sloppy. He might have fucked up a little, but he's a good guy. And we need justice for him.
I love Ryan.
Yep, we all do.
He stabbed me in the heart.
You know, he fucks up sometimes, as we all.
No. He fucks up a lot.
I'm on Nagy's side. Depaulo's an idiot.
And you know what? It's Ryan. If this fuck, you know what? I'm not big enough to fuck you up. The reality is in December, last December in Bahamas, I flew Ryan and his wife down so that we could sit down face to face and renegotiate his contract. Sat down, renegotiated his contract. At this point, he had already filmed a WSOP.net spot that was 30 minutes or 40 minutes on his YouTube channel. He didn't bother to tell me about it. I then negotiated the deal. We got a handshake. Before he signed the contract, he released that video out on his YouTube channel. After he knew, and I said, you know what? That was a great big premeditated fuck you, Ryan. I'm sorry, but I can go so far, but that wasn't a fuck up.
I feel you. But I don't think Ryan really meant it as a fuck you.
Look, Conrad has a piece. It's clear he's been hired.
A cheap bitch and didn't want to give WSOP's money back.
I think that's fair. Honestly,
he was looking for every single last thin edge, as poker players do, and I was one of those corners he cut.
Yeah. To get this thing back on track, I actually agree with you on the whole Depaulo situation. So
we all did.
And I still talk to him. I still wish the best for him. 100%.
Yeah, but like, what can you do? Okay, so coming back to the endgame talent stuff, the Scott Ball relationship, and all those other things. I guess, like, are there any final points to touch on as far as like what ACR plans to do moving forward? How you guys plan to navigate this? Like, we agree paying twice sucks here, but you also have some of the biggest streamers in the industry kind of coming out and saying like your site is shit, don't play there. You're getting the exact opposite of what you paid for, essentially.
Oh yeah, it's and funny enough is you know it's with the influencers have so much power, right? But they have like 10x the negative power than they do positive.
But that's social media in a nutshell. But yeah, of course.
Right. And the problem is it makes a company like myself not want to deal with influencers at all.
Right.
Because the downside is so much worse than the upside is good.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And the fact is this is so we're the what's everything that's in dispute over the period of a year, what I paid 2 influencers.
Are you able to divulge that amount?
Over $30 million.
$30 million? How much of that was in-game talent?
I'm not. I'm not going to get into that. But I paid over $30 million.
Okay.
Right? I believe in influencers.
Obviously.
I support influencers. The last thing I want to do is shit where I eat.
Right.
Yeah.
That being said, is once lawyers and agencies and everything got into it, it just all ground to a fucking halt.
Sure.
And I'm sorry, that's the real world, right? If these influencers came to me and said, you know what, we'll go ahead and give you do it again, do this last whatever pay me what I'm owed, and the next one I'll do it 50% off, and we'll continue our relationship. Done.
Honestly,
that's
if they weren't aware of that before, I think you may be able to
work something like that
out. That's what my lawyer's trying to negotiate with the agencies, but it's like it gets caught in the middle. And you know what? I'm
if you can speak to them directly. No, but that's fair.
But I'm not allowed to.
Yeah, I'm sure the lawyers are just saying.
There's so much red tape and so much bullshit. And guys, it's influencers out there. You can call it money in the bank until we come to some kind of agreement. I'm not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
If you're starving, it's tell me. I'll throw you an advance or something. I know we'll come to an arrangement. It's just get on your agent and make sure that they're talking to our guys and it doesn't drop.
Right.
And there's got to be. It's a bad situation for everyone, including Endgame.
Wow, Endgame's cooked.
Well, no, time out. This was a good situation for Endgame.
No. I'm saying right now we're in a bad situation, including Endgame. However we got here, doesn't really matter how we got here. We're here, right? Nobody likes the situation that we're in right now.
Your ceiling is in frame. Okay, there we go.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Again, I'm walking around.
Well, I would argue that. I would argue that Endgame probably doesn't care.
Yeah, they just made their money.
Okay.
I'm not so. And if you want to listen to the rest of the show after you get off, I think you'll kind of see where I'm coming from here. But my instinct is that whether Scott intended to scum or not, this was always going to be the outcome.
I'm going to reserve the right to no comment.
That's fair. That's very fair.
It's. I don't know how. I don't know exactly how we got here, but we're here, and it's. I'd like to make this an A and B relationship so that Endgame can see their way out.
Quite reasonable. Let me ask you one more question before I get you out of here, because this is something that I think everybody cares about. First of all, I do want to say that I think you guys have made like a lot of big strides forward when it comes to security. I know that your feet have greatly been held to the fire for a lot of things. I think the shuffle back mechanism for PLO and 5-card is a really great adjustment, even though the education of the market may be a little bit behind. I still get sent screenshots all the time by players who are like, what the fuck? I folded that card pre.
But then this goes back to the beginning of conversations. I suck at marketing. So letting people know how it works, I'm just bad at that.
Yeah, relatable. I get it. Not good at it myself. My question then, though, is to follow up on the alleged $10 million bot ring. Has there been any headway there? I know that Tyler, one of the guys who did the most due diligence in finding these bots, has confirmed that a lot of them have been banned and things of that nature. But I think the community is still waiting to hear some sort of response when it comes to refunds and any of that number getting reallocated.
There's been a lot of refunds, right? I mean, when you say we don't publicly say how much every person got.
Right.
But it's at the same time, there's, you know what, we're cleaning up the house, and I guess it's more thinking about the way we do our refunds. Mm-hmm. We are maybe we're a little slower, right? Sure. Maybe we're a little more meticulous, but it also costs me a lot more than it costs everybody else. Mm-hmm. Because, for example, if let's say some bad actor, whatever that happens to be, we deem them a bad actor. We pay back to the players, whether they have the money in their account or not, up to, I want to say it's $25,000 win versus loss, or ladder people in tournaments or whatever. Mm-hmm. And we don't get that money from the player's account. So where most companies, whatever they grab from the player's account is what they refund.
Right.
That doesn't mean anything to me. So maybe we're a little slower, a little more meticulous because, yeah, it's out of my pocket.
Do you have?
But yes.
Do you have an estimate as far as like what the lump sum total is that you guys have paid out?
We could do that another day because I don't want to pull a number out of my ass.
Sure.
It's not insignificant, but it's not 10 million.
Right. Okay.
That being said, we're doing a lot of the right things. We're doing a lot of the right things.
Yeah.
And good.
What do you feel about the transparency between you guys and the customer base? Like how much can you tell us, and like why?
I'll tell you what. It's if I was ever to like sit down and write an SOP, that would be one that I would love to sit with guys like you, right? And say, okay, it's big conference room, bunch of poker players, and I can say stuff about this, but I can't say stuff about this. Can you tell us this? Well, here's why I can't.
Right.
And kind of go through an SOP of what you can expect from us and what you can't expect from us. Can you ever expect us to out somebody with their real name? No chance. Zero.
Yeah.
Not going to do it. Can you expect us to when you report something, do we look into it? Yes. Can we give you confirmation on that or why you were wrong? There's so many things that can lead to an edge or can lead to undoing somebody's identity and stuff. It's such a slippery slope. It's people appreciate their their anonymity, you know? It's either that or we just move to all real names.
What?
I'm in favor of that.
Yeah. Why wouldn't that be a good idea? Do you think?
Because none of my competitors do it, and it would cost me so much. It could potentially cost me so much market share. It could put me out of business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, KYC is a big hurdle.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Party Poker fell victim to this. They went very diligent on the KYC side and just totally lost high stakes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, look, we appreciate all the transparency. I know that we've been very hard on you, and I hope you know it actually isn't personal, even though sometimes it may come off that way.
You know, it's at the end of the day is the reason I'm calling in is because I feel like it's come to a head, and it's going too many different directions.
Right.
Look, it's Occam's razor.
Yeah.
If it seems like the simplest answer, it probably is.
Yeah. I'm with you on this one. Of all the things that you guys have been dragged for in the past, I do think that this is just pretty much gross negligence from the side of Endgame. But unfortunately, I don't know if that lets you off the hook in the public opinion. But it's nice to hear you extend the offer for trying to figure out a way to make these guys whole.
Yeah.
Well, it's half of my marketing budget is influencers.
Right.
Right. Like it's. I believe it's the wave of the future, right? I've never been in this spot, but influencers is kind of a new game too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's not super new, but it's newer.
It's still evolving. Yeah.
Anyway, well, thanks for taking my call, guys.
Thanks for calling in. We appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Just don't post it on Twitter. Right?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be.
That's the almost last time I'll make that
joke. No,
never let it go.
Yeah.
Callbacks are the best form of humor, so keep saying it. I'm here for it.
There we go. Hey, and keep doing a good job. It's the fact is you're one of the few podcasts that I actually listen to.
Appreciate it.
It's actually got substance to it. It's not just all roasty all the time.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Phil.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Bye.
Okay, that was
interesting as fuck.
There were a couple. I'm fucking dizzy, guys. I don't know what you.
That was so interesting. What the fuck just happened?
I mean, the biggest takeaway I think from that is you guys like playing poker, don't you?
That was
great.
That was
what a response.
I mean, honestly, it makes sense.
There were a couple really important bullets to pull out of that may have gotten glossed over a bit, but 30 million being allocated to influencers.
You think 30 million got glossed over?
Well, To be clear, he didn't say that all of that went to Endgame, but it's fair to understand that a chunk of that pie went to Endgame talent, and Scott Ball.
It had to,
posting all of these images of him in these high-end cars, Bentleys, and everything else.
Which makes me think that our original thought of how the payment kind of went through is correct.
Lump sum.
Yeah, because hey, your Endgame, here's $5 million, whatever the case may be.
Right.
And then Endgame goes out and does whatever.
That $750,000 doesn't seem like the floor.
Drop
anymore.
in the bucket.
It does not seem.
Well, it's still the floor.
I mean, the ceiling.
It's not the ceiling.
I'm sorry, the ceiling. Yes.
It's certainly not the ceiling.
Right.
And at some point, if all this does shake out in the court of law, which it seems as though it's headed in that direction,
what will happen?
When does this become a criminal case?
When will it become a docu-series?
Well, that's after the criminal case, obviously. But that's my question: is when does this turn from civil to criminal?
I think you mentioned the reason why it can't. It's because it's behind an LLC.
No, that's why he can't be sued.
Okay,
so he can't lose in civil court. Only the company can lose in civil court.
Okay.
But at some point, this could be potentially a Ponzi.
Okay, yeah.
Which certainly could be prosecuted criminally.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look, man, at the end of the day, you don't just get to walk around stealing $10 million or whatever the fucking number is and not go to jail.
It was a small loan.
You go to jail. Not always, but a lot of the time, you
don't
just
pass
go to jail.
So in this case, you have one black company that paid this. I guess, that doesn't matter because that ACR wouldn't matter here.
No, because they're the victims as much as the.
Yeah, they paid for a service and didn't get it.
Exactly.
No, they did get the service, though. That's the thing.
Well, did they?
Yeah, the influencers did their job.
I guess they did their job, but now you're getting the bad press from the influencers, which is not what you paid for.
I mean,
to
be honest,
what Nagy said.
Nagy came straight out and said, "Hey, listen, we'll pay that full amount that we owe, and then if you do 50% off for the following, well, I'm in there." That's a pretty sick deal, honestly. If you think you're not getting paid from Endgame.
Hopefully the influencers are listening.
You know what? Hold on. They get paid twice then.
No.
Because if they were ever to get paid from Endgame.
They're not. I'm going to start.
I would assume there'd be stipulations of if that ever.
True.
Go ahead.
I'm going to start Landon Talent Agency.
Okay.
I'm going to reach out to XQC.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, hey, I can get you that contract, man. I can get you that contract. Phil's agreed to it. One stream, just 4 hours of your time. I'll take 5%, no problem.
Yo, Landon's getting sharp here.
You can be a.
I'll do what Guapo tried to do for me in my ignition contract. I'll make it happen. I can text these people.
You're already a part of ATF. You can start the gamer division.
I'll create a subdivision. I'll create my shell company.
I like this. Look, we've covered enough bad shit that we could just.
It's time we start profiting off this shit, man. Look, we've been doing this for too long with no money.
We all just know how to do it right. We're just gonna fill in the holes. Yeah. We're going to become the middleman.
We learn from their mistakes.
Right.
And this is how we prosper.
That's right.
Does that mean the app game is coming next?
No, we don't need
the app
no
game's
app game.
next.
We don't need an app game.
No, the app game's coming. Low rake.
The app game only happens once these deals get through. We have to prove our legitimacy in the space.
That's true. That is true.
And then we conquer.
Okay.
You got to pay the influencers.
Well, while we're in the process of conquering,
they'll get paid.
Let's talk a little bit more and unravel the quote unquote ball of yarn, if you will.
Very nice.
That is Scott Ball. So, giving that backstory now, we know it's all happened now with Endgame Talent and ACR. This is a 2023, 2024 problem, I guess. Maybe a 2022 problem. I'm not sure how far this dates back. But we saw this coming. If you were paying any attention to Mike Matisow whenever he came forward at the end of 2021,
You're asking for a lot.
Which most of you were not.
You're asking for a lot to pay attention to Mike Matisow.
I understand. So most of you were not paying attention at that point, but shout out to fucking Mikey, okay? Give this man his goddamn flowers.
Yeah, shout out, Mikey. Let's go, Mikey.
Let's go, Mikey, baby.
He knew it. He knew it all then.
Mikey smelled a rat when he saw one.
I knew it all then. Couldn't really vouch too much because I wasn't involved in the app and I wasn't as close with Marcus at the time, but was very sure that this stuff was happening. So Matisow comes out and he says Scott's cheated this app game for $800K. Now, to give you my backstory to this, I've known Scott since his Twitch days. The guy just rubbed me the wrong way from day one. I remember he was at a house party that we were having, maybe a 4th of July party we were having 2017. And he just comes up to me. He had just left Twitch. As far as I knew, he was jobless. And he comes up to me and goes, hey, I'd really like to run your company. I believe in Solve for Why, and every year I take on a project to kind of build a company. And I'm looking at him like he has two heads. Like, what fucking company have you built? What are your credentials, sir? You worked for Twitch and started a poker department, and it did well. But like, that's not necessarily because of you. Hell, it could be in spite of you. And I think like Doug's tweet kind of indicating like the way that he behaved when he was at Twitch is very much like my experience as well. So I just always saw this guy as a bit of a grifter. The backstory now to this app game and like where I revisited kind of understanding how not to be trusted Scott was. In 2021, I believe it was like early 2021, maybe January-ish, and it might have even been late 2020, like December, I'm not sure. But I played an episode of Poker After Dark. It was me, Shulman, Scott Ball, and a handful of others. Afterwards, he insisted that he took us to dinner, myself and Shulman, and we went to John George. We had a steak dinner that he insisted on paying for, kind of chatted a little bit.
Thanks, ACR.
And we went like down this rabbit hole of what he was getting into. At this point, Endgame Talent had been around for a couple of years, and he was talking about doing a fundraising round. Like he was bringing in all this money, yada, 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 dropping a lot of names that I knew, some of which included Alex Ding and Chris Fitz. So I knew both of them through Lynn, who I was dating at the time. And Scott had no idea that I was dating her, so he was just like very loose-lipped about everything. And, throughout the course of this dinner, he goes on talking about how, Ding is this rich crypto kid and he's investing $600K in the company and yada, yada, yada. And then he goes on to talk about Chris Fitz. Now, I had met Chris Fitz as he was it's so funny. This guy wears so many fucking masks and they're all fake. He was introduced to me as a farmer living off of like green energy in Oregon. So
the only farmer I know is Michael Rocco. Okay? That's the only farmer I know now.
So I was told
you won't hear from him.
I was told by Lynn that he had this like organic farm in Oregon, and it was all self-sustaining, and he lived a very meager life, operating off of like $70K a year, and just like lived off the land. Like, and mind you, I learn all of this as we're on a hike that we get lost on overnight.
Oh my God.
Wait, he was on this. Oh,
yeah, no. He was there. He was the kid. He was the kid that was so frail that when we were hiking and there was a little bit of bouldering, I would go last because I was worried that he wasn't going to be able to get over it. So I was like behind him like a dad, like, pushing him and like, he's wearing Yeezys on the fucking hike.
Very meager.
I've done it. It hurts.
It wasn't just like a common hike.
Farmer.
It was like, we hiked down to the Colorado River and back.
A humble farmer with a penchant for shoes.
Right.
Wasn't Ryan Fee on this?
Fee was on this hike. Yeah, it was.
There was some bighorn.
You had a very interesting group you went on hiking on, I must say.
Shout out to Lynn.
I said yes to Lynn. Everybody else showed up.
They all said yes to Lynn.
I had no idea what I was getting involved in. I would have instantly said no. But anyway, I'm glad I went because I learned a lot. So he was introduced to me as this like farmer who was living off of self-sustaining land and, lived a very meager life, earned like very small amounts, but was brilliant. Like he was a very smart guy. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. As more details emerged, I was told that like he was very good with tech and yada, yada, yada. And then I come to find out that he is managing Ali's stable, and he's doing the accounting. He's doing like
meagerly.
Yeah, I don't know how involved he was in like the back end stuff of getting them to use software. A couple of the guys who came forward said like they had this whole plan in place where if you were new to the stable, you would sign up as many accounts to as many sites as you possibly could for the stable to use. And then when you were actually playing, you would just GTO wizard all of the spots that were close or whatever. Mm-hmm. I believe this was before fair play check. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. We just know the Ali stable cheated. Yeah. How it happened doesn't really fucking matter.
Yeah.
But during this meeting during this dinner with Scott, he's going on about, he's like, yeah, he's my assistant. He's such a big fanboy of poker. Like he just loves it. He's like a 1-2-2-5 grinder. Doesn't have a lot of money. I just pay him to be my assistant and do my accounting for these different apps and all this other stuff. But like, he basically portraying Chris as like a complete nobody. Well, come to find out, like, I already know all of this other stuff about Chris. Not the Ali stuff, but like everything else that, like, you know, he's a pretty sharp guy and he actually is involved in poker in some sort of capacity. And then, you know, much later, I found out about the Ali stuff. You know, Melissa told me that when she went down to Costa Rica for the cage, he was there. So like, that's how I knew he had a relationship with Nagy and all this other stuff. Right. So already I'm like very sus because, you know, he's telling me all this stuff about Fitz that I just think is mostly probably not true.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just kind of bank it in the back of my head, like, okay, Scott's just a compulsive liar. Who cares? Whatever. No big deal. So then he's like, you have to come meet these two guys that I'm staking. They were esports guys that I'm trying to transfer into poker. They're really young and really sharp. And I have them in this app game that I'm running for Helmuth. So this is all before Mattisau had gone public. I'm like, okay, great. I don't really want to, but like, you know, social pressure, Schulman and I go over there. I walk in and it's these two young guys. He introduces them to us. I don't know who they are. I believe that they are still playing. And I don't want to dox anybody that I'm not confident on, but like, you know, Marcus sent me a couple of names that are probably them. I don't know if Scott still stakes them. I can't imagine. I don't know how he would still have money, but he is still in action on ACR. As of a few days ago, his Shark Scope demonstrated that he's still playing, which is wild. I don't know how this man is still staying in action, but there it is. I mean, really August 23rd, firing at 215. No, but I mean, you know, probably has like 10K on the account or something like that. Who knows? Probably
use
borrowing.
Use that to pay some influencers.
Yeah, he's probably just like still has like a bit of a reputation with certain people where they think he'll pay back. Little do they know that money's gone.
I mean, how do you even know he's broke though? Like he stole a bunch of money, obviously.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
when it comes down to it, it seems
well
like...
because I guess I don't know for a fact that he's broke, but there are rumors that all of his cars have been repoed, and there are signs. You know, he didn't play the series this year, as far as I know, or at least didn't play much of it.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit online. I don't know. You know,
okay.
I'm
probably
speculating.
The Millie Maker, you know.
Right. I'm speculating, but I would guess a guy playing $50 spin and goes probably doesn't have a ton of money.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe not. Anyway, so we get introduced to these two kids. Scott's there with like his fiance or whatever, and he fires up the app. Now it's a 7-handed app game. I think it was 2040 at the time. He sits down, and those two are already playing. They're all within eyeshot of one another. Like two are on the couch, one's on an adjacent chair, and this hand happens where like one of his backies or whatever is either like opened or was in the blinds or whatever, and Scott like puts in a re-raise and then looks at him and goes ace 10. And Shulman and I just like kind of look at each other and just leave.
Jesus.
And it was just like, that was the most unhinged, like blatant cheating right in front of our faces, like as if it was the most common thing in the world for people to do. So like clearly they're card sharing, they're, you know, it's a 7-handed game and all three of them are at the same table, sharing information, and you know, Scott's probably getting a big piece of the rake, right? Assuming that there was rake, because he's running the whole game for Helmuth. Well, come to find out, we learn a lot more about this backstory. So we're gonna play a couple clips of Mikey here and give you guys a little bit of insight as to how much he actually did get right.
The truth of the matter is he keeps going back to the past when Scammer Boy, Scott Ball, was running the game. And what was happening is, you know, going to the whole story of everything is we had a game, we were playing, it started in March. In about the middle of April, Phil brings Scott Ball into this game. And I told Phil there's something about him that's not right. I said, I think this guy's broke. I don't think he has money. And the next thing you know, Phil's like saying, oh, he's a multi-million-dollar of a big CEO of a big corporation. I'm like, yeah, Phil, bullshit, you know. And, you know, he started, the thing is back in the day, he just started calling Phil and making up things to him about me. I broke a couple rules and I got kicked out. Always friction, because Scott would always go to Phil saying I said something when I didn't say it, and he'd make up things because he wanted me out of the game because I was the best player and by far, and I was the biggest winner, and Scott wanted to make money. So you know, I don't want to really get into like the whole story, But this guy was doing everything he could to destroy me and destroy mine and Phil's relationship by making up things, because Phil was only playing like an hour a day. And it got to the point in about the 1st of June where all the people in the game got kind of sick of playing with Scott, and they called me on the phone, and we wanted to start our own game. Because Scott turned our game from a 5-10-20 game into a 20-40 game. So we went from a 5-10-20 with a 20K buy-in to a 20-40 game with an 80K buy-in. And it was just ridiculous. And I just said that this guy was just trying to win all the money. He had a guy who was an accountant, right? They asked him if he could we could hire his accountant and pay him $1,000 a week, which we did. And about a week later, the guy's sitting in the game buying in for $20,000, and they're both sitting in the game starting the game. So I'm like, what's going on here? You know, I'm like, these guys are playing together, and as it turns out, they were. So everybody wanted to start the new game. We start the new 10-20 game. It goes for about 6 weeks. Scott proceeded to be calling people that were in the 10-20 game and to get them to play in his game. And before you know it, we couldn't keep the game going anymore. And Scott had basically taken the entire Hellmuth game with permission from Phil and all the players, and I was no longer allowed to play. Why was I no longer allowed to play? Because...
Okay, so that's the general backstory of like how Ball ended up in the app game and how eventually the reins got turned over to him from Hellmuth. And understand like what's taking place here. Not only was he now running the game and overseeing like who played and all the accounting and stuff like that, he's also now skimming off the game to quote unquote pay his accountant. Now, as I just previously stated, his accountant is Chris Fitz, right? So now they have all the books available to them. He's getting paid $1,000 a week or something along those lines. And the game has now like basically doubled in stakes, 20-40 with an 80K buy.
So Chris is now, he's farming and accounting.
And accounting, yep.
He's a jack of all trades.
Yeah, he's an accountant on the farm. You
just
never
not
heard
much of a hiker at the end of the day.
Big shoe guy, though.
Right. So this then ultimately leads to what we saw shake out publicly, which was Mattisau outing Scott for cheating the app. And this blew up in a PokerTube article where, they basically broke down all the details. But the accusation was that Scott Ball cheated Hellmuth's private game out of $800K. Now, where did that $800K come from? It wasn't like he just robbed them, but part of it was. So he was taking $1,000 a week for accounting purposes. And then he was also skimming another $5K a week or a month, I can't recall, off the top just for himself, just to cover things, right? So in this second video, Mattisau is going to kind of explain a little bit more in detail how the cheating operation was orchestrated.
I get this call. I think it was about December 19th or 20th. And they're like, everybody's my whole phone blows up, right? And they're like, dude, everything you said about him is true. He's a scammer. He took everybody's money and blew it all and gambled it away. And then he cheated in this poker game. And he put a bunch of people in the game where he was sharing all the whole cards with them. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, right? And everybody's like, how'd you know? How'd you know he was a scammer? How'd you know he was a thief? How'd you know all these things? And I'm just like, well, I mean, I'm a professional poker player. I'm playing with a guy 8 hours a day. He's playing 10-20, 7 o'clock at night till 3 in the morning, never taking a hand off for a piss. I'm like, this doesn't seem like a guy that's worth millions of dollars, that owns a company that's worth millions of dollars or whatever. And I know what he kept saying to Phil. Phil would call me on the phone. Oh, Scott said you did this. Scott said you did that. I'm like, dude, I never did any of that. It's a lie. And listen, in all fairness, I just want people to know, Phil is a very trusting and caring person. And Phil got hurt way more than I did because Phil trusted him to run his games. Phil trusted him with giving phone numbers from his rich friends. Phil trusted him completely. And as it turns out, I ended up being right. And the guy was just a scammer that was he took all these people's money, just everything he said. Like when I got in and I kicked out of the game in May, like don't everybody invest with this guy. He's a scammer. He's fucking a piece of shit. I knew what he was. I could see right through it. And he ended up like getting like Phil's friends to invest like $900K, and he took the whole money and blew it all gambling. He played Petraglio and Jason Kuhn three-handed, lost $400,000 of it. You know, this guy's living the high life on other people's money. Why he did whatever he could to make sure I was out of the game. And now, when I told everybody what the guy was, people want I felt vindicated. You know, I felt vindicated, but not vindicated. In other words, I was upset that I was right. Okay, but I was also upset that all these people could have avoided losing all this money that they invested.
Okay, so this is basically what I was explaining, I came to understand from having witnessed it myself. Essentially, Scott was backing 2 players in the game. Fitz was also now in the game. They're all working together. They're all going back and forth on card sharing, on colluding. They're also skimming from the app themselves. And then additionally, what's not even mentioned in the article from Poker.org is that Scott now has access to all of Helmuth's Rolodex, right? Yep. So now he's getting access to players who have a ton of money, who at the time, ironically, man, if this isn't funny that a scammer scammed the scammer, Ding was one of them, Alex Ding. And, Ding effectively was told that Helmuth had a big investment in endgame talent. It later, I believe, was understood that Helmuth's investment was very small. I think Ding, at the time I was very friendly with Ding. I didn't realize he was scamming, or maybe he even wasn't at that point.
Yeah, maybe, probably not. Like, he lost a lot of money on
Ding
this
has such a wild timeline from what I realized.
That's a whole other episode in and of itself. But yeah, like there might have been a point where Ding was on the up and up and he just lost too much and then reverted to like
finding a way to get money back.
Yeah.
Man, fucking hell.
But in any event, he invested $600K into endgame talent because he was told that Helmuth had like $1 million plus invested. Later came out that maybe Helmuth only had $200K invested.
Like $5.
So it was a lot smaller, obviously a lot lower confidence now for a guy like Ding. But many
even
other,
that's a lot, right?
Of course,
someone gives you $200K for something like.
Well, I mean, to be fair, if the valuation of the company was like $2 million and they're pulling this massive 7-8 figure contract from ACR alone.
The valuation of the company is because of the contract that he was able to get with ACR?
No.
You're saying before that.
I'm saying like if the company was valued low and they're able to pull contracts that large, then it's not that bad of an investment.
Right.
But nobody knows what contracts or business they were actually doing. And as far as I know, Endgame's been dead in the water since day fucking one.
Or what is and isn't real.
Right. Like basically, it didn't take long after this for Ding to like start coming public and wanting money back, whatever. So basically now Phil has opened up his Rolodex and, to his credit and to his demise, Phil's reached out to me many times where he said, hey, I'm investing in this thing. I'm putting up like X amount of dollars. I believe in it. And I think it's a good investment if you want to get involved. And I've passed on most of them because they're like just not things, they're not spaces that like I know anything about. And I definitely don't, as a poker player, the only thing I've learned is not to passively throw money at things. Like have some knowledge.
I'm learning that.
Right? Like have some idea of knowledge. Like, oh, we're starting up this restaurant. You want to be? No, I don't. No, I do not. I just don't.
The restaurant
right. It's just like, I don't. Even like I've been offered the opportunity to invest in like a lot of card rooms. And it's like, that's much more in my wheelhouse. And I'm now more confidently say no. Because I'm knowledgeable about the thing, you know?
The confidence versus unconfidence saying no to things.
Right.
Very important.
Right.
You won't invest in things you know. Why would you invest in things you don't?
Exactly. So Helmuth then responds to Mikey going public with all this. And Scott Ball kind of responds as well with a tweet where he, point by point, picks apart what Mikey's saying and calling it all a lie. You got that?
Yeah. Scott Ball did not steal millions of dollars from me. So I'm kind of surprised that accusation has been leveled. I think Scott's done a good job as far as being CEO of Endgame.
If you listen to what Phil said, he said, Scott didn't steal $1 million from me.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Other people, maybe.
Yeah, who knows? Well, regardless.
What we do know is that he raised whatever this was for. He raised like 1.4, 1.5 million, it seems.
Something like
from
that.
What we know from Ding, 600 and 800 from them.
Yeah, it sounds that way. Somewhere in that neighborhood. Yeah. And that tweet aged like fucking vinegar. Nope.
And why?
Well, yeah, like sour milk. I imagine Helmuth regrets this, and he certainly owes a huge apology to Mattisau, as far as I'm concerned.
Justice for Mikey.
It goes on. I forgot to ask Phil about this, but he said, as far as getting Phil Nagy intoxicated and exploiting him, Phil's one of my closest friends and addresses the accusations himself. Which, to be fair, Phil probably at the time didn't think that he was being exploited, but now in hindsight, probably doesn't think Scott had his best interest in mind anymore.
Get him back on the call.
Right?
Get him back on the call.
And then he goes on to say things that he did regret, which was like the way he interacted with Doug back at the Twitch. Like whatever, man. This is just like straight out of the handbook of cope, where you're just trying to make good.
The copium files.
Right. So then Mattisau goes on to tweet. This is when the Ali scandal broke in early 2022 from Foxen. Mattisau quote tweeted and said, "I knew about this when the guy who exposed Scott Ball told me about RTA and multi-accounting." That's a very important phrase to remember. That guy who told him and exposed Scott Ball was Chris Fitz. The reason why he knew about RTA and multi-accounting, because he was doing it at scale with Ali.
Farmer Fitz is a rat.
That's the craziest part to me. How did that? So he was just basically trying to get Ball kicked out of the group so he can run the group? Is that what's going on here? Is he trying to stage a coup?
Well, Mikey can. Mikey's video will divulge a little more details in this third one.
All right.
I love this so much.
Just know that every time he says accountant, he's talking about Fitz.
His assistant, who was in the game that I told you about, that we were paying $1,000 a week, he ended up outing Scott for all the shit he was doing, because this guy was actually playing in the game with Scott, and they were literally getting in the game, being on the phone, sharing cards, talking about what they had. They even had all kinds of situations where they would tell his horses when to bet, when to call, when to fold, when to raise, and they end up his horses win $550 in that game, and Scott wins $347. So comes to about like $897. I don't know how much of it he actually cheated, but we'll say like 700 of it. And so this gets exposed, and my buddy Marcus Gonzalez, who has a really good rep in the poker world, he's actually the one that kind of exposed this, because he was playing, he knew something was wrong, he knew people were ghosting on the account.
So the irony here is that Mike actually uncovered the Ali scandal long before it went public. But for whatever reason, he didn't want to go public with Chris's name. And I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because he basically...
Protect himself?
Yeah, maybe it's... Well, no, not himself, but I think maybe it was like, hey, I'll tell you everything that's going on in the app game, but you have to leave my name out of it.
Oh, yeah.
You have to leave me anonymous type of thing.
Yeah.
So obviously there was bad blood between Scott and Chris. Mm-hmm. That's very clear. They for sure had a falling out. And it sounds as though Fitz went to Mikey and just like told him everything that was happening. Everything from card sharing to colluding to RTA and anything else of the sort.
I wonder if he's still the accountant at this time.
No, obviously not.
Well, why did you say obviously?
Because they clearly had a falling out.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you, right?
Right, and there's a lot that's that we cut out, but basically the Hellmuth game collapsed, and then him and Mikey restarted it. Scott and Mikey actually restarted it before Scott just stole all the clientele and kicked Mikey out of it. So basically, Fitz told everything to Mikey that was taking place, and at that point, Mikey went public and went, or maybe it was too late. I can't quite follow the timeline of when exactly he went public versus when all of this information started to flow. But in essence, Scott and the people he was backing made off with $800K in profits from a 2040 game, which is fucking insane.
That's wild.
It plays bigger than like a 2040
Of course. And then additionally, he was able to raise more than $1 million for endgame talent, which by all accounts seems to be broke. According to Botez, she said that communications between her and Scott Ball, or her and Endgame Talent, resulted in them saying that if they're sued, they will just go bankrupt, which means that they probably don't have the liquidity to pay, because it's not like bankruptcy is a get out of jail free card. If you go bankrupt and you have the funds in your account to pay these people back,
it has to go,
it gets liquidated.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you don't get to just keep the money,
right?
The courts tried to the courts tried to make good on the debt. That's part of bankruptcy. So full circle, it seems as though a lot of the stuff that we've been alleging about guys like Scott Ball, guys like Chris Fitz, guys like Ali, I'm still your bitch, all of these guys now, in hindsight, multiple years later, seem to be guilty of a lot of the things that they're being accused of when it comes to running cheating rings, when it comes to skimming money off the top, when it comes to running I guess the best thing you could call Endgame Talent is a shell company for a potential Ponzi.
Yeah.
It's tough to say, but at some point, you have to wonder, when does this go into the legal system in a non-civil way, right? When does this actually get prosecuted?
Criminal
in a criminal case? Yeah.
Well, it's more coming. I feel like everything's coming out that could look like it could be a criminal case now.
I think the biggest challenge is that beyond the contracts and the lack of payment, everything else is mostly hearsay.
Yeah.
So like we can say this stuff with a high degree of confidence because, you know, a lot of the sources are vetted, a lot of the details will line up. There are, you know, half a dozen to a dozen people that have similar accounts that were coming from firsthand knowledge, but there's just no goddamn receipts.
I wonder if like
what do you mean? Like,
wait, there's no receipts?
There's contracts. This stuff was signed.
Yeah.
Only the contract and non-payment between Endgame and the influencers.
So
everything else with regards to like the app and the cheating ring and all these other things.
The
fundraising of
who knows
the,
what that
the app stuff is going to would be very hard to like build a fraud case. But I think with Endgame and, you know, receiving payment from ACR and then not paying out your clients, that seems like they'd be able to build a fraud case.
I wonder,
not easy, but you know,
potentially.
Here's my question: is they're going to need to tie something to ACR saying that they got paid. Basically, they're going to need some type of proof saying ACR paid Ball.
Well, I assume it's not like some sort of cash deal under the table. I imagine that there's transactions.
There was probably just a contract, like, hey, we're going to give you.
It's two companies interacting. I imagine it's going from a business account to a business account.
Like this stuff has to get signed.
But it's a shell company to a shell company, probably.
No,
or to Endgame.
Nah, that's not true. For sure, ACR wants it off the books. Like they want that. They want to be able to write off that marketing dollar.
Right, I'm sure
that marketing spend.
You like signing influencers, don't you?
Write off to who?
It's a loss. What do you mean?
Yeah.
When you pay $30 million in marketing, that goes against.
that's minus money.
Whose taxes are they paying? What taxes are they fucking paying?
I assume ACR.
That's the reason why the man can't come into the state.
No, that's not. He's not paying United States tax, but I'm sure he's paying some tax.
I mean, yeah, he lives in Costa Rica. He's paying the head of the army. He's paying the governor or whatever you want to call him.
I don't know how it works.
Yeah, I mean,
doesn't matter.
I mean, yeah, but regardless, like
the stuff with the agency is probably recorded through contracts and signs. And I don't know why
paper trail, some sort of paper. There's no reason for ACR and Nagy not to want a paper trail.
They're not handing out $30 million in cash.
Right. And if they are, like, that's a huge oversight because, like, the paper trail only helps you. It doesn't hurt you.
Right.
Unless, like, I don't even know if, like, you could say you're looking to launder. I don't even know if that matters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's just like a ton to unpack here that I think is noteworthy. If nothing else, like, you know,
man, all it took was 3 years.
If nothing else, seems like Mattisau fucking hit one.
Of course.
Now we have to start believing everything Mattisau says.
No, everybody just calm down.
I think the deep state is trying to kill Trump to, prevent him becoming president.
I have a CSA that this is the only thing that we will ever listen to Mattisau about.
Very fair. Very fair, Conrad. I think that's
Mattisau,
accurate.
all love.
But yeah, I mean, I think like it is important to kind of be able to trace back the timeline and see point by point where all this stuff starts to line up as probably being true. This is very far from being a conspiracy theory at this point. And even then, I don't necessarily think it was. I think it was more so that like Mattisau whistle blew and Helmuth immediately squashed it, and then Mattisau had to retract. So that didn't give the public very much confidence to believe that anything nefarious was happening.
Right. Yeah, especially if to a degree Phil or even if Mike probably didn't put money into it, but Phil did. Like it hurts his investment if Mikey's just like spouting quote unquote nonsense.
Exactly. Well, and I think that was a big part of it back then, right? Like it was only year 3 of Endgame Talent.
Like you can't prove this.
And these guys definitely invested something. So it's like, let's not besmirch this guy's rep and have this company crash when we all have fucking money invested in it.
And now Ludwig is saying they didn't get paid. Botez didn't get paid. XQC is saying this contract that he knew was too good to be true.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I'm surprised Helmuth stayed so quiet. Like whether he likes it or not, he has ties to Endgame Talent. Whether he likes it or not, he's on public record multiple times singing the praises of Scott Ball and basically character vouching.
But just to recap, his connection was investment?
Yeah, he invested in Endgame.
This is what I mean,
he said
though.
they were very close friends.
You remember when you were saying stuff about like looking at stuff and doing due diligence, where like Phil is kind of championing this guy? You know, it's hard to be like, I don't believe you when Phil's rep is so clean for being like upfront about all of this stuff. Yeah. So if someone's like, hey, Phil vouches for him, Phil's invested, it's got to be good, and now this happens.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, it's going to happen to all of us. At some point, we're all going to get got. We're all going to befriend somebody that is a bad actor in the space. But, you know, Phil especially, he has a lot of leverage, a lot of pull. He has a very affluent group of friends. He should realize how big of an asset being his friend is and be careful with who he kind of lets within that space of doing business, you know?
Yeah, I guess it didn't get to anybody like not too big or whatever. We're like, I'm sure. We don't know, but like
we don't know because like say it went up to Chamath.
I was gonna literally say like
right, but like say Chamath invested $250,000. You think he gives a fuck to be caught up in all this drama?
No, but maybe
over
it's
nothing?
more. You know?
Yeah, possibly.
Like maybe to a degree, it's like $5 million or whatever.
Sure.
And it's like, okay, now we can say, oh, I'm going to give you this contract for $1 million for a stream. Here's the bank account that proves that I have this.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Then like he's probably still not going to say anything either because like it looks bad on him.
Right. So
yeah.
Yeah. It's all look. I'm sure this stuff happens in a lot of industries all the fucking time, and it never makes it to the surface. But our industry is very small, and like, you know, you can't just go out there fucking robbing from Peter to pay Paul. It doesn't work in this space very often, unless you're really fucking efficient at it. You know, if you can rob and pay relatively quickly and eventually get made whole, you might get away with it.
Eventually,
that was probably like to a degree like that was like the plot, like that was the scheme. You know,
yeah, but like, bro, he won 2 bracelets. He won Player of the Year. He won the $1 million fucking mystery bounty.
Oh yeah,
top prize from GG.
I forgot about that.
Like he just plucks a 7-figure bounty, and like this guy still seems to be in Hawk.
He didn't pluck a 7-figure bounty. He plucked an XQC stream.
Right.
For 4 hours.
4 hours.
Oh, guys, remember when cases like this, they have to be they're settled. You know, so he probably got like 520K or something
that's
like
not
that.
True. That's not true. It's only for slots. That is only for slots.
My tweet is now rescinded because I didn't get paid the full amount.
Right. Okay. I am tired of talking about this. I want to give a huge thank you to Nagy for calling in and clearing some things up. And I want to apologize in advance for all the other bad things that we'll say in the future. Again, I want to be clear. It's not personal. I just want to see you do better, man. I'm here to see you do better. I'm rooting for fucking you and ACR to do a good job.
As soon as you do worse, that phone number is coming back out.
He changed it. It's okay.
We'll find it out.
All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you guys all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this extra long stream with a few surprise twists. We'll be back tomorrow, noon Pacific. Be sure to tune in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and leave a comment below. Let us know what you think happened here. We'll be back tomorrow. See you guys all then.
Later, squad.
Peace.
Peace.